This is going to be a very short video showing how to use loops in Coral. There are two types of loops, the while loop and the for loop. And in this video, we will cover the while loop. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a total of a series of items, and then we're going to compute the average item price as well. And the loop is going to input each one of these values up until it reaches the 0, and then it will stop. So this 0 here is being used as what they call a sentinel value, and the while loop will process each item up until it hits that sentinel value. And you'll note that we have the program divided up into our typical declare, initialize, compute, and output sections. So first, we know that we're going to need a set of variables that we're going to use in our program. So let's set these variables up. There's going to be 3. We're going to have an item amount, and that's the amount that we're going to read in for each item. So that's these 15, 20, and 30, and so on. And then the total amount. And this is what they refer to this as an accumulator. So this will accumulate the total as we go. And then there's another variable, counter, which is a counter variable. And a counter variable is used to keep track of the number of times we have gone through the loop. So these are the 3 variables we'll be working with. And the average we won't store into a variable, we'll just print that out. And we're going to want to initialize our values to get going with our calculation. So before we go into our loop, we want to initialize our values. And this is sometimes called priming the pump. So before we go into a while loop, we have to have an initial set of values created. Otherwise, the while loop won't work properly. Okay, so now we're ready to set up our while loop. We've got our first item amount, so we're going to read in that first item amount, which will be the 15. We're going to set our counter to 0. We're going to set our accumulator to 0. And now we're ready to go ahead and put in our loop. So this is going to be what the loop is going to look like. And the loop is going to use the keyword while, and then it is going to test that item amount, these item amounts as they come in, to make sure they're greater than 0. Because if they're 0, that means we have hit the sentinel value and we drop straight through. We're done with the loop. But if it is not, if it is greater than 0, then we're going to increment the counter, add 1 to the counter. So each time we go through, we're going to be 1, 2, 3, and so on. We're going to accumulate our total amount by adding the item amount to the total amount. That's why we set total amount to 0 up here. And then before we exit the loop, we have to go ahead and read the next input. So now we're going to go ahead and read the next input, and it's going to come up here and it's going to test and make sure that next input is not the sentinel. If it's the sentinel, we're done. If it's not the sentinel, then it will go ahead and process the loop. And when it does hit that sentinel, then we're going to go ahead and output the results. So let's see what that looks like. And those are just going to be a series of put statements, as you should be familiar with. So we're going to put the order total, that's just a text string literal, if you will, to output. Then we're going to put the actual total amount that we've accumulated here, and we're going to put a line feed to the output, just to put a new line in the output so that the average amount here will start on a new line. So we're going to print the string literal average amount, and then we're going to print our total amount divided by our counter. And so if we look over here, this is where we should see our output. I have set the execution speed to instant, so we should see it right away. So if I hit enter execution and then run, there we go. So our order total was 85 and our average amount was 21.25, which looks like about a fourth of that. Let's try another one. Let's try maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 0. And let's try that. So there we go. Our order total was 35. 5 and 6 is 11, 18, 26, 35. Divide by 7. Divide by 5 and you get 7. So there you have it. That is the while loop in Coral. And we will demonstrate the for loop in a subsequent video.